Hey YouTube guys, making another video today. Just got off of work a few hours ago and was sitting down watching some other YouTube videos and decided, had a very unfortunate and annoying thing happen to me Sunday. I was driving this 95 F-150 with a 5-liter 4-wheel drive truck and put a motor in it last March. Because the motor that was in it, unfortunately, was a rebuilt engine, a rebuilt long block. That's why I bought the truck and paid way too much for it. Well, that motor had a problem. It started overheating violently to the point where I couldn't even drive it. So, decided that I was on a time crunch and needed the truck back. It was, cold and there was still a chance it was going to snow. Had the snow blade on it, which is on there currently now. Anyway, I pulled the snow blade off of it. I drove it to my brother's house. We yanked the motor out of it. I found a used engine off of Facebook Marketplace out of a 86 F-150, which for you Ford guys or non-Ford guys even, that's the first year for fuel injection on Ford truck engines that I'm aware of. At least on the 302s or the 5 liters. So, decided, okay, well, that should be the same. Of course, not doing enough research on it, found out that the early ones were still a non-roller cam engine. 95, which I know that's quite a bit newer, is a roller cam engine. Well, there are some differences. What I ended up finding out was the biggest one, which was the most obvious, was water pumps are different. And of course, the 86 was still using V-belt setups. The newer trucks, I forget what year they switched over to serpentine belt. Of course, my truck has a serpentine belt setup on it. I wanted to retain all that because, I wanted to keep it like it was. And I personally like serpentine belt stuff better. It's just easier to mess with, in my opinion. Some people like V-belts because you can, if one breaks, you have another backup one. But I don't know. I like the simplicity of it over the, I don't know, the longevity of it, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, robustness. I don't know, whatever you would call, oh, look, one belt broke, I still have two others, or whatever. But yeah, if you ever want to take the inside belt off, you got to take the other two off, or what, I just thought that was dumb. Anyway, so, put the water pump on it off of the 95, and I found out that the timing cover is different, and after several attempts of, trying to put it on there, kept leaking, kept leaking, kept leaking. I just, it was driving me nuts. And me and my older brother, who was we'll call him a retired Ford tech. He's not old enough to retire, but he is no longer working in the automotive field. He was actually a master certified tech and worked at a small shop. So he worked on a lot of older stuff like this truck here, and he has a pretty good background in it, and he likes to tinker with engines and stuff. He doesn't build engines, but he knows enough he can take one apart and put it back together. I'm kind of in the same boat, but he knows a little bit more of the performance side of things, and just he actually has two pulling trucks, and he plays around with the high performance stuff. I'm more of a stock kind of guy. It's not that I don't like high performance stuff; is I just don't know enough about it. And I said I got my Ford racing hat on today. It was just a coincidence. It was a little chilly out here, but I was like, you know what? Let's do this and get this out of the way just so I can, I don't know, get you up to speed on why I have a serious love-hate relationship with this truck. Anyway, trying to keep this one a little simple today. I know I might get a little involved with some backstory, and I apologize for that. I'm going to try to keep this one short as I can. There is a side tangent on this video. I'm going to tell you that right now. This kind of ties into this whole truck ordeal, which you'll see here in a little while when I get to it. Anyway, so back to the truck thing. Water pumps are different. Couldn't figure out what I was going to do because the other water pump off the other engine, although it was good, it wouldn't work on this engine because it was designed for a V-belt setup, and I believe the snouts are slightly different, so things wouldn't quite work the same. So started looking, figuring stuff out. Between me and my brother, he figured out something online. At one point, Ford Mustangs, which also had a 5-liter fuel injection engine in them, excuse me, they had a different. They have a like a, I don't know what do you want to call it, a backing plate on the back of the water pump that has the ports on it. Well, at one point they changed the orientation of those ports. The water pumps, however, are different, so you can't just swap the backing plates out. So what we did is we modified to make like the Mustang ones. Well, the ports on the F-150s, they use like a D-shaped port, and the Mustangs have a round port on the the backside of the water pump there. Well, got some coyotes. Anyway, fair amount of them actually. Jeez, I think I'm at a zoo. Anyway, uh, round port on the water pump, so I was able to get it swap over. We actually made some modifications to it. We had to weld the hole shut because I wasn't gonna buy a Mustang water pump. Mustang water pumps were like $200, and I was not gonna spend that much on this because I didn't know if this motor how good a shape this engine was. Anyway, try to sum this up as quick as I can because I have talked about it in some other videos. I got a little long-winded. We're gonna sum this up the best I can without getting too detailed. Actually, I ended up yeah. Anyway, we got the water pump put on there. We ended up the firing order is different on the older engines. The 86 they still used a 302 firing order. My truck uses a 351 firing order. So we had to wire this truck back to the 302 firing order if I remember. Yeah, if I remember right. I think that's right. That's the way I'm thinking. We had to go back to the 302 firing order because the roller cam engines use a 351 firing order. A little different. The other issue is, which I can even show you here, the intake's laying back here. That intake there is off the 86 F-150. I know it's you can't see much there, but anyway, they used what they called batch fire in those years, and that would basically fire one bank of cylinders and the other bank of cylinders. Well, this truck being newer, went to what they called sequential injection, which is pretty much, well, say 99% of what everything uses today. At least on standard automotive stuff. There are some, they have direct injection and things like that now that are getting a little bit more complicated. But anyway, that's what they did on those. And, well, seems simple at first. We're like, whoa, it just plugs in. No, that wasn't set up that way. So we actually had to rewire the harness to make it work with this engine. So it was a little different because the firing order is different. We had to make the injectors fire different. That's what the problem became because they would fire at different times. Because we could get it to start if we held the foot feet down, but it wasn't running. It was running like it had a miss. It wasn't running right. So we ended up pulling some of the pins out of the main wiring harness that go to the injectors. Well, the ground circuit's all the same, but the power circuits were different. Well, we switched around I forget 3 or 4 different ones that need to be switched over. My brother was involved with it. He's way better at wiring than I am. He was able to look between I printed off a couple schematics of fuel injector wiring, and he was able to determine what needed to be switched. So we got that switched over, and of course we got the truck running. Well, the joy was short-lived. Engine got up to operating temp, and it started knocking, and the oil pressure gauge was going like this on the dash, which indicated something's wrong. We got crap oil pressure. So I decided let's pull the motor back out and give it a good go over, which I didn't want to do. I was hoping this truck would be just ready, bang, bang, boom, ready to go drive the truck again. Well, that didn't happen. So pull the motor back out, put it back on the stand, pull the valve covers off, and it is full of gunk and grime and grit and just nastiness. Ended up cleaning out the engine best we could. In the process, I found a bent push rod, and I was like, well, that's not good. So flipped the motor over, pulled the oil pan off, and tried to determine where this knocking noise was coming from. We thought it was a rod knock. Couldn't feel any looseness in the rods. Thought it was a bit odd. Started pulling caps. Plenty of wear and everything. The motor is not a lower mile engine. It has 166,000, or it was when I put it in there. It's probably got 170 on it or so now. So I don't drive it a lot. It goes 3 miles to work and 3 miles back. I do that 5 days a week. Well, we'll say 6. Sometimes I work Saturdays. Anyway, that's all this truck really does is just back and forth, and I push snow with it here in the yard during the winter time, and that's really all this truck really does. I don't drive it a whole lot. Anyway, try to sum it up a little bit here. Found out that one of the main bearings had some nasty grooves in it. So that the crank did not look good. It looked like a record. It was just really rough looking, and but the problem was I didn't have any money, so I just like shoot, we need to do this quick and dirty. So we bought some I bought some 2000s undersized bearings. We slapped them in on the rods and the mains, slapped the motor back together, dumped some heavyweight oil in it. We got some new gaskets and stuff for everything. Stuck it back in the truck and fired her up and crossed her fingers. Full coolant everything, and had okay oil pressure. We'll say about 20 pounds of oil pressure. I'm like, yeah, that's good enough. I think it never really dropped. It's been there pretty much ever since, and seemed to run good. Oh, we did get new lifters and new push rods to get because I think one of the lifters or something had a problem. They were stuck in the bore and stuff, so we didn't really trust it. So we cleaned everything out as best we could. And anyway, so yeah, oil pressure. All of a sudden, oil pressure stabilized, everything like that. I was like, okay, well, shoot, at least we got it going. So drove the truck more or less problem free up until yesterday. Went to my parents' house, which is about 8 miles away. Going down the highway, 65 miles an hour. Get about 3/4 of the way there. Temp gauge starts climbing all the way up to the L and the normal. I'm like, great, this is getting hot. I was getting a little squeamish. Well, I pulled into town and then temp gauge started to creep back down. I was like, okay, well, it's not hot now, so I parked it and I popped the hood. I'm looking at stuff and thinking, I'm like, I don't think the fans are running. So, of course, my brother was there since it was a family event. So we got to talk, and he said, well, let's go figure out if your fans are working because I have electric fans. This truck has a 3-inch body lift on it. I did not put this on there, by the way. I bought this truck as is, and if you're wondering why, it's because it was the one that was for sale, and it was the right body style, and it wasn't very rusty. It has a little bit of rust here and there, but to me, it just seemed like a good fit at the time, which it's unfortunately kind of coming back to bite me. But anyway, this truck had an aftermarket aluminum radiator in it. It's like a racing style radiator. It's got 2 electric fans on it, and then it has this fancy aluminum shroud that holds the fans in place. So I don't know if I've talked to some people online. They're like, "You sure it's not like some crappy Chinese thing?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't know where it came from. It was already in here when I bought it. I can't put a regular fan clutch on here because since the body has been lifted up, the fan would be pushing into the lower side. It wouldn't pull air through the radiator as efficiently as it would if it didn't have a body lift on it. Also, the fan shroud wouldn't work because it'd be hitting the fan shroud because the body is up higher, lifting the radiator up. So, anyway, like I said, it was overheating. We thought it lost power to the fans. They tapped it into some wire, which I don't know what it went to. It's some random plug off the fuse box. I don't even know what it's for. So we cut the wire off of there and ran it directly to the battery, and they kicked on. Well, we ended up we pulled. I started the truck, let it run with the wire hooked up from there to the battery, and it's got a relay and it's got a fuse, so it's not direct exactly. So if something shorts or something, pops the fuse. Anyway, got up burning temp, fans are running. I'm like, okay, so it's working. So I didn't give it much thought, shut the truck off, went inside, hung out with family, did whatever family stuff, and time to go about 4:30, 5 o'clock-ish Sunday. Hopped in the truck, got about, we'll say 4 miles from my house, maybe 5, and the truck just got nuclear hot, puking out the radiator. I pulled off on the side of the road, pulled off on the gravel road, and just let it sit. Shut the truck off for a little bit, started up, text my brother, I told him what was up, and he's like, oh crap. He's like, I drove it a little bit farther, got hot again, and then he called me, so I started talking to him. He's like, go out there and make sure the fans are running. Well, I jumped out of the truck, slammed the door, irritated or whatever, start looking, fans are running. It had puke antifreeze out everywhere, of course, because it got super, super hot. I was like, well, I'm just going to try to limp it home because I didn't have that much farther to go. Go to open the door. I locked myself out of the truck. Truck's sitting there running. I'm on the side of a gravel road, and I'm about 4 miles from my house. So, luckily, since, I don't know if you want to call it procrastination or not, I still got all the extra engine parts left over from the engine swap. I happen to have the dipstick laying in there, and I was able to get the passenger side door open by fishing the dipstick through the door and then hitting the window switch because the truck was running. So 20 minutes later, and I was worried because I'm like, the truck's overheating. I got back in the truck and the temp gauge is back to normal again. And it was sitting running the whole time. So I'm like, I don't understand that. That's weird. Anyway, jumped back in the truck, drove for another 10 minutes, temp gauge started creeping up again. I'm like, of course. But that time I was already into town, and then I started working my way back to my house, which I live about 3 miles outside of town. And made it back here, and oh, and of course on the way here, the throttle was sticking. I got stuck about 3/4 throttle. No idea why. Well, I found out later why, but got it back here. The throttle was sort of working normal again. Well, I popped the hood and I looked at it, and guess what? The cable for the cruise control, which hooks into the main throttle cable, had popped out of its holder and wedged itself on the other side of the bracket, and it was holding the throttle partially open. So I quickly unconnected that, and I wrapped it up, and I jammed it into the driver's side fender. So the cruise doesn't work on this truck, and it hasn't worked since I bought it. So I just shoved it off to the side there. I'm like, well, that ain't gonna happen again. Basically, what happened was there's a little plastic tab that hooks onto the thing, and it must have got broken at some point, and that happened. So yeah, that was a fun deal trying to slow it down when I kept revving up to $2,000. I was trying to turn to come down the highway. I was like, oh, for crying out loud. Anyway, that's not even the worst of it. I pulled into my driveway here. I got to park up in my parking spot. I'll give you a little scenario what I did. Pulled up in here. Pulled up to where this truck is parked. As you can see, there's kind of a slope. And went to shove her up in the park. What the heck? Like, the shifter was just floppy. The shifter cable broke. I was like, are you kidding me? So I couldn't get to go in the park. So after a bunch of jacking around, I was finally able to wedge a brick underneath the tire so it didn't roll back, because it kept rolling back towards that there. It kept rolling back into that. So I kept having to crawl back underneath the truck, shove it in the park, get the thing to start, and then I had to push it forward, and it was just extremely annoying, as I'm sure you can imagine. So now I got to basically, well, I had 3 things to deal with. I fixed one. Now I got 2 things to deal with. I got to fix the shifter cable so I can actually drive the truck, and then number 2, I got to figure out why the hell this thing's overheating. And it's just very frustrating. Okay, anyway, got that bad thing out of here. Anyway, Friday of last week, I decided that, hey, I'm finally going to go ahead and bite the bullet and start on this V8 swap I want to do on my Ranger pickup. And I've been wanting to do this for a while, because right now my 88 Ford Ranger pickup, my show truck called a Little Bohemian, it's got a 2.3 liter single overhead cam with a 5-speed, naturally aspirated, not turbo, nothing special. Anyway, I love the truck. It's just so slow on the highway anymore. It's not that fun to drive it anywhere. Like if I'm going like to my parents' house or close by, it's not a big deal. But when you take it down Highway 77 or something where the speed limit's 70, it's flat out the entire time, and you're just not having a good time driving it. Around town, it's real fun. It's still zippy, quick like that, but it just doesn't get up and go like it needs to. So the motor out of this truck that I pulled out, the original motor that was in it, that was a rebuilt wrong block, which it should be in good shape. Like I said, I just got to figure out what his mystery overheating problem was. We think maybe blown head gasket, but we haven't quite decided that yet. Which, like I said, me and this truck have a bad history together. Anyway, so tying into the Ranger again, I've been wanting to do this V8 swap for a while, but I want to keep it a manual. Everybody said, well, why don't you put a C4, C6, or whatever, automatic out of a Mustang, whatever, T5. And I'm like, I don't want a T5. I want to have gears kind of like a truck, because it's a truck, and I want to be able to use it as such still. I mean, not that I haul stuff with it. It's just more, I don't know. It's not a race car. That's not my intention. I just want to be able to drive it and be able to go, 70, 75, maybe even 80 if the truck is capable of it. Anyway, found a guy on Facebook Marketplace. Seemed like a pretty honest guy. Hopefully, it doesn't end up with the truck like truck scenario like this. Got myself a, I believe it's a MD-05 manual transmission. It'd be a Mazda transmission. It'd be out of if this truck was a manual, this 95 F-150, if this truck had a manual in it, it's the transmission that would be in an F-150 with the 5-liter. The guy had it for sale. He was asking, I forget, I want to say $500 for it. And the first thing I asked is, do you have the shifter for it? Because there was 2 other transmissions for sale just like it, but they did not have the shifter. I was like, I got to have the shifter because it's a swap. It's not a direct, it's not going into the same truck. And finally, this guy said, yeah, I have the shifter for it. And I said, okay, here's a long shot for you. Do you happen to have a flywheel? Because I need a flywheel for the 302 I have, or 5-liter I have. And he said, yeah, I got that in. I got almost a brand new clutch and throwout bearing and pressure plate. And I said, shoot, throw her all in. I'll take it all. And he said, okay, well, $650 is yours. So $650 Friday. Went and grabbed it. And, of course, then Sunday, this truck decided to just, nope, you aren't going to have fun. You're going to have to work on me first. So this truck is very needy. And it's quite annoying. I'm not going to lie. So anyway, just gonna keep this one here, and this is what we're doing right now. So yeah, a little bit of annoyance this week so far. It's only Monday, but yeah, that's how this week is starting off, and hopefully it gets better. So anyway, hope your guys' week is going better than mine is currently, and well, hopefully I don't know, maybe I'll post a video. Should be getting the transmission cable tomorrow. I got there was 2 options, I guess. This has a 4R70W transmission in this F-150, which is a good transmission. It just like I said, it was just frustrating that the cable broke, and like I said, now I'm just gonna have to figure out how to put the cable in it, because I've never done a transmission cable on one of these trucks before, because I don't know, I guess I've never seen one break. But this truck does have a body lift, so maybe it fatigued it, I don't know. But yeah, so I don't know if I'm gonna do a video on replacing the cable, because I don't know, to me that's kind of lame. And you'll probably hear me cussing and swearing the whole time, because it's not the funnest thing to do on one of these. Plus I have long tube headers on it, and it goes right up next to the side of the transmission, and it's really hard to get your hand in there. So anyway, guys, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys are liking this. Like I said, this is a little different than the last one even. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe if you will, and I'll keep you guys in the loop, and try to post as much as I can for all the random stuff I got going on in my life. This car here is my daily, so until this one's back up in action, which eventually I'll take the snow blade off of it, because hopefully the snow's done. It is April now, but we'll wait until I get at least the shift cable fixed. It should be good enough to drive back and forth to work, because that's all I really do with it. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.